Well, here we are on Wednesday, the 2nd of July, and it is my sister Adrian's 69th birthday. So for a while we're the same age. I know that my sister Adrian does not regularly watch me, but she might today. So happy birthday, Adrian. Cheers. I just love my sister Adrian dearly. We've always been close. We've always been different and respectfully so, even as kids. And I just love that my sister Adrian followed her dream and made it come true, to become a professional artist. And the fact that she ended up becoming part of Disney World and meeting and marrying Floyd, a Disney legend, just fits. We were Disney kids. It was a highlight of the week, the Sunday night Wonderful World of Disney. So once again, happy birthday to my sister Adrian. Happy birthday. Much love to her and much love to my entire family. To keep moving on, I did try to go to the Fishbone concert, and it was a bust for me because two things. Number one, I went to the wrong venue. I did not see where it got moved, okay? But I went early hoping to get parking, and on the way there, I got to share this. I was thinking I wasn't going to. Got my John Coltrane on. I got stopped for driving while black. I'll explain. Some of you won't get it. This is what we're up against. So anyway, I thought it was that slowdown. It was originally. Apparently, it got moved, and I didn't see a notice where it got moved to the waiting room. But anyway, I'm heading down to the slowdown, which is not that far from my house, and it's a typical Tuesday night around 6:30. There's no traffic, so I'm heading down Cumming Street. I changed lanes, but I look behind me, there's no one, so I just changed lanes. I didn't signal, I usually do. Out of nowhere, here comes a cop. Turned on his siren and everything, pulled me over. Pulled me over because I changed lanes without turning without signaling. Now I have a busted taillight, which since it happened last night, I went ahead and home remedied and covered it with something red. It's been busted for years. No one's bothered me. I'm blaming this on Trump mentality. Some of you won't agree with me, but the emerging police state that he is encouraging, to me, it was an example. The cop's vibe was shittier than fuck. You know what I'm saying? The only reason that, have you ever been stopped? Like you had done something just because you changed a lane without using your signal? I was furious. But I could tell by, I read people, I do a pretty decent job of it. When the cop come up to me, the way they approached me, everything was like, this is hopeless. This person is an empty shell. That I can see that they don't even see me as a human being. Sucked. Totally ruined my vibe. So I didn't get a ticket or anything, but a little took him forever because I know that cop was up there on his computer looking for something. Frankly, he looked disappointed when he came back. It's like, couldn't find nothing on me. I'm clean. I'm a regular citizen. So he just gave me this piece of paper. You can just throw it away, but letting you know, and, fuck that shit. Driving while black. Somebody will probably come in here. Some person will probably come in and say, well, I got stopped for so and so. But that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Cops hassling black people and brown people. So, once I figured out that the show, because there was none to notice, nothing. Once I figured it out, it was at the waiting room. I was done. I just went back home because I really didn't care about seeing Fishbone. I don't like that type, that what they do. I don't like it. I've seen them before back in the 80s when they were on tour with the Beastie Boys and they tore it up. And it was great to see their youthful enthusiasm and watch the band as they are competing. You know, they're competing with the with the white bands trying to break through and be a big band, which they had all the ingredients for it, and it didn't happen because they're black and not a typical put in your place sort of type of black band. They're trying to break out. And then I found out the reason why I didn't try harder once I found out the concert had moved was I found out that Norwood Fisher, the bass player, who's the person I want to meet, isn't even with them on tour. I'm not interested in meeting the lead guy. I've seen the documentary about him. His name escapes me right now. He's a character. He's manic, you know, and I can, you know, he is a perfect front man, but I can also see how if I were in a band with him, he'd probably be a pain in the ass. Seriously. So that went down. I came back home, and just the whole vibe about trying to go when I really didn't want to go, and I'd like to stay at home for the most part anyway, just told me, just stick to your plan A. I really had no interest in Fishbone, so I didn't miss anything. And I saw there's clips online this morning from the show because that's what everyone does. I didn't miss anything. I saw them back when it was exciting and when they were young enough that when Angelo, when he starts to disrobe, you know, it's fun. Don't nobody want to, you know, nobody want to see no 60-year-old man's behind. In other words, he's still doing it, the same shtick. But to move on to music, and I have to get my phone is just, it's time to get a new setup. So, I ended up going, there you go, work for me. I do need to get a new cord for the phone. It's about shut. I did end up going to the record store again, Grapefruit in particular. My reasoning, and I have the reason for it because being on the poor side, I'm always concerned about having money for emergencies and making sure I can cover my bills. But Grapefruit put up another video yesterday because they're always buying collections, and so they didn't just buy that one collection that was of interest. They put out some more stuff that was interesting, and there was something that I said to myself, they don't hold. I have to go down and see if it's there. So I did. I'll show those, but I'll get up to it because I pulled my Camel because I kept talking about Camel. And so I'll show them. But on the way to Camel, on my shelves, is this album that continues to remain in the collection, even though it's not something I really think much of, except the cover. Jimmy Campbell, Half Baked, on Vertigo Swirl. It's a swirl. I just think that's a really by Keith. Keith, besides Hypnosis, was a designer of note back in the 70s of rock albums. And this is, he's got a background as a songwriter mainly. And there's nothing prog about this at all. but I've had it for years, and it's on Vertigo, which is part of my Vertigo collection. I would say I collect Vertigo, but I can't afford to, so I just get them when I can. The swirls. It's an American swirl, but I keep it. Also, on the other side of Camel is this Italian progressive rock band, Campo di Marte. I haven't played this in a while, but this is good stuff. Very unique. Even slightly jazzy. Campo di Marte. So, to talk about Camel, and then I'll show the records that I picked up yesterday. The first record I ever saw by the band, and this is how I found out about them, was this album. The summer that I lived and worked in Port Aransas, Texas, in high school, among other things, because of my religion interest, I was involved in a Christian group at the high school I went to my senior year, not the boys' school, but regular school. It was a group called Young Life. Any of you folks, were you involved in Young Life as a kid? Christian group where they're, have activities for kids and stuff. Kind of cult-like, if you ask me, but Christianity to me is a cult. Once again, I'm sharing my opinion. If you don't like it, just don't like it. It's just, this is what Dereck thinks, okay? But anyway, I'm down in Port Aransas. I went to Port Aransas, Texas with a friend and some other members of Young Life for a summer to work as student counselors at this Bible camp, but it was at this lodge on Port Aransas, Texas. It used to belong to some millionaire who donated it to Young Life. And while I was down there, I went record shopping, and the first shop that I went to, I saw this for the first time. Bought it immediately. It was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I didn't even know about Camel, okay? Now, I was intrigued because as a child, I remember Camel cigarettes, and this is, a straight rip of that, the Camel cigarette pack. And I remember wondering, how are they getting away with this? This is, there's no relationship, surely. Good album. This is what started me on my kick to Camel. And interestingly, of course, none of the other kids that I was down there with could dig Camel. None of them. They couldn't get into it. But that was my introduction to Camel. These are not in order, but this is their first album. I'm pretty sure this is their first album. I don't have all their albums. I really like Camel, though. I really do. I was going to pull them. Peter Burdens was the original keyboardist, and he was in them with Van Morrison, but also put out some solo albums back in the 70s before Camel. I have at least one, maybe two of them. But here we keep going. The Snow Goose. Wonderful concept album. All the players in the band over the years have been distinct. And Andy Latimer, the guitar player, very soulful player. Here's the next one. Did I keep my... I hope I did. I got to a point where I thought I would keep... I didn't. Okay. So the next album that I got from Camel was Moon Madness. And this is the original cover, which, again, typical America. It's like, you don't think you can sell Americans something tasteful and artful, so you have to dumb it down with this goofy ass cover. Moon Madness. Great album. To this day, I hate that about the world we live in. Everything is compromised because someone has to make money. It sucks. Okay, these aren't in any order. I love this album, Nude. I have 2 copies, don't I? Yes, I do. One copy is, this is a Korean pressing, of all things. And this is a German pressing. I love this album. I really do. It's so beautiful. Landscapes is a favorite. Just, it's like a still life painting. I love this cover too. And this one with Richard Sinclair from Camel on bass and vocals. Breathless. Very tuneful, very accessible, and still very progressive at the same time. That's why I like the band. They're able to do both. And then this album, which I have a Japanese CD upgrade of this, but here, Rain Dances, when this came out, it's the ringwear is because it was a party album. It was one that my friends liked. And so this traveled. But I really like this album too, and struggled to learn the bass lines on a lot of these songs because they're very fluid and not typical pentatonic. I think is that the one of the main scales that is used in rock and blues. Wonderful band. Another one that I have two copies of, but the Japanese does not have the obi, but I have it anyway. I Can See Your House From Here, and here Kit Watkins from Happy the Man joined them on keys. Once again, there's a lot of commercial potential here. They have their own renown, but they could have been a big band, I think. The music is very accessible, and here they're trying to directly approach it. The single factor. It's like, we need a hit, we need a single. So they tried hard. Never happened for them. Great music though. A live record. Good stuff. You all know Camel, right? And then Stationary Traveler. That's what I like about this band, is they consistently kept the tuneful melodicism in the writing. And the last thing I had to show by Camel is Pressure Points, live in concert. This is a good performance. This is real good. Really enjoyed this. I've played this Rioter, Captured. This one, sometimes when I would play it, I'd repeat a track because it was like, so that was good. I could keep going on that, but I'm gonna just switch gears here and show you the records I picked up yesterday at Grapefruit. Kind of as a, like I said, the way that I justify it to myself is early birthday present to myself. Cheers. Here's what I got. This had been down there from the haul that I bought from last week, and I thought I had it, but I don't, and it was cheap, so I went ahead and grabbed it this time. North Star by Philip Glass, and I do like Philip Glass, and I understand what he does with his music. Again, back on the wonderful Virgin label. I just love that label. I've seen Philip Glass live twice, met him, told that story where I got to sit in with the former lead singer of Digital Sex, Steve Sheehan, did journalism, and so he was assigned to interview Philip Glass. I forget for which publication, but we were still in a band together and friends, so I went along. But what was cool about the interview was that I was able to take a copy of my first two EPs, 7 inches, Dereck, to give to him. And when I gave them to him, he was very interested, started a conversation with me, and then asked for my autograph. on the records. And the other thing about Philip Glass is if you don't get Philip Glass, seeing him live made a big difference. The power, the physical power of the momentum of Philip Glass music really comes through live. I saw him twice, and it happened both times, and it was like I wasn't the only one. There's times when the music would go up a notch and would literally put you back in your seat, and it would just bear down. Yeah, I appreciate Philip Glass. I got 2 albums yesterday that I was really happy to get. One is a put back in the collection, one that I'd gotten rid of, and I'll explain. But this I didn't know about because I don't watch pay channels. Harold Budd from the HBO series. I know this much is true. Don't know nothing about the series, but I love Harold Budd's music. And I went ahead and read the backstory here to find out. You know, the director got turned on to Harold Budd music while driving with a friend, and found himself, it's beautiful, clear vinyl. He was struggling with writing this movie, apparently, but when he heard the music of Harold Budd and then bought some, apparently it opened the gates of his imagination. So the first thing he sought to do was just to license some Harold Budd music for the music, because he was using it for the what do you call those things? It's in here. When you use music to illustrate what you want to happen, although you don't know that you're going to get to use the music. So at first he was going to just license it, but then he got up the nerve to contact Harold Budd directly and to see first if it's okay to use the music, but then if he might be interested in writing something, and Harold Budd did. So this is new original music. I haven't listened to all of it. I just got started on it. But this was down there, and I said, yeah. The last 2 I'll show are the ones I was really after. But this was down there. This is a reissue. Lamont Young 2. An important figure in the development of Western avant-garde music. Okay? New Yorker. And what it says here is the dramatic and important effect Lamont Young had on John Cale and the early Velvet Underground remains largely unheard, as early recordings of Lamont and the Velvet Underground are hard to find. But here's one, and this is Theater of Eternal Music, recorded in 1960 and 1961. And the poem for chairs, tables, benches, etc. That's where Mertzbo. This is where Mertzbo comes from. This is probably the first pure noise recording. Well, I'm sure a lot of people have done it, but you know what I'm saying? Or it's documented. And I just realized this is this is very cool. So you know, I actually came across a video by a person who was involved in the avant-garde and then busts it. You know, he kind of lifts the veil and talks about how, in some ways, people who were working in the avant-garde were privileged, you know, privileged people with money in their background. But that's just an opinion, because even as a child, I can remember doing things like playing outside, or moving something on the table, or noticing the rustling of paper and some plastic, and then actually manipulating it, listening to it like a composition. I don't think I'm the only person. I think a lot of people have done this in their lives, you know, just growing up and experimenting with things. So I could have made this recording. It really is the sound of a person making a tremendous racket. You know, sounds like, he might be like trying to destroy these items. But it's like 1960, 61, this is the beginning. He was very influential. So I was glad to get that. The last two, this one is what got me to go down there. Tony Conrad with Faust, Outside the Dream Syndicate. Look at that, really nice. On Superior Viaduct. Now here's the deal though. I have owned original copies of this album twice and could never have a positive listening experience with it. Literally, the last time I listened to this album, I still haven't played this. It needs to be in the collection. I have everything else by Faust pretty much except for the box sets. But it would annoy me. Literally, it would get to the point where it's annoying. And so I sold it. Even after the second time I found an original copy, I bought it again and eventually got rid of it. But when I saw this, it's a reissue, but I noticed the nice type. I said, yeah, if that's there, that will complete my Faust collection for the most part. And the price was right. This was $23. And the last thing I got is musically is the highlight of yesterday. The Jazz Composers Orchestra double album, the box version. Look at that lineup. And other than the fact that it's, got that ringware, it's complete. It's got the Jazz Composers of America catalog, catalog, the full booklet that it gives the whole rundown. Michael Matler is, and they talk about it in here, a couple of folks writing, where Michael Matler is an unrecognized giant of American music. I would have to agree. And the people that he has playing on here, Roswell Rude, all these guys, Pharoah Sanders, Larry Coryell, Gato Barbieri. And the thing is, Michael Matler, I have several of his albums. He writes, I'm saying this not knowing, but I think I've got it right. He writes for the strength of the players. So this music sounds, this was done in 1968, which is like, wow, ahead of its time in many ways. But even though it's not dedicated to New York, these pieces are called communications. And there is an energy about the movement of the pieces in general that reminds me of New York, or a place where there is a lot going on in a compact space. I listened to all of this yesterday. This is incredible, but it's dense and it's kind of murky. When you listen to it, it's like, it's not so much that I'm seeing colors. It's almost like there's grayscale. The first album features solos by Don Cherry and Gato Barbieri. And Barbieri really shows that he's not messing around and he's not playing with his screaming, sax playing to great effect on here. But it's the second album that is like, oh my God. The second album features Cecil Taylor as the soloist. I'm familiar with Cecil Taylor. I haven't listened to him for a while, but this is a performance that shows he was a phenomenon. Cecil Taylor had technique like no one else. His fingers look like hammers because of the way he played so hard. But he does some things on here that I've never heard another pianist do, but not just because he can do it. It was in service to the music. See, that's the thing about Cecil Taylor. And I need to stop. It's the half-hour mark. I like to stop about here. Cecil Taylor's playing came from the gut, from the heart, from the soul. He was driven like a lightning rod by the electricity of the moment of the music. And that's what you hear. There will be these bursts of energy in the music, but what he's doing, executing it, it's almost inhuman. He does some things where he's doing this, but it's musical. And it's like, how is he doing that? This is amazing. The Cecil Taylor side in particular, well, the two sides with Cecil Taylor, mind blowing. Okay, I can't say it enough. Jazz Composers Orchestra. Carla Blake plays piano on the first album. That's what I have to show. We'll go ahead and stop here. Happy birthday to my sister Adrian. Happy birthday. I keep forgetting to mention this. I know that B. Luger or Bluger, you're a regular watcher, and Richard Drolet, hello. But a while back, he asked me if I was watching Nebworth, and I did. And the only thing I saw at Nebworth that I thought was any good this year was Wet Leg. Their set was spirited. I enjoyed that. Okay, folks. Once again, happy birthday to my sister Adrian. Everyone take care.